Hello, everybody, and welcome to Segue Saturday number 2. I'm sorry if I sound a little stuffed today, but for some reason, there's something in the air, I think somebody's doing laundry with a new detergent, and my swamp cooler blew it in at my face, and the next thing I know, I'm like this. I woke up fine this morning, but apparently there's a new sheriff in town, and that sheriff decided that some kind of new fabric softener or whatever is going to go start attacking my sinuses. So if I sound a little stuffy for most of this recording, it's not on purpose. I have downed several medications. Anyway, once again, this is the week in review, and hopefully if anybody has any questions, they'll come and ask. I'm watching the chat, and with me today is Sonia. She missed last week because she was exhausted after working and unfortunately couldn't come to the video. I don't know where Aisha is today, and I believe Diane is working. As for Joel, I believe he's sleeping late because I think he's supposed to work this evening. He wanted to be on the recording, but with the way that his schedule flip-flops back and forth, and he's a nurse, when his body decides it's time to crash, it's time to crash, and I don't fight it. Anyway, hi, Sonia. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Just a little bit warm, but I'm fine.
It's funny. You say a little bit warm. I doubt it's above 84 there.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't checked the register.
Register? Your brain is still in I'm at work mode. I haven't checked the register.
Yeah, my brain's... Yeah.
Register tells all. I got when I was in retail, my brain got into that mode. It's like I must go to the register and see what it thinks. Working with machines is interesting when you're at a job because your brain keeps going back to it repetitively. Anyway, so this past week we haven't had a whole lot of activity, but I managed to send once my family and I had finished working on the necklace to Diane, and she started using it. And several of the things that she'd said to me, and unfortunately you have to rely on hearsay because I'm telling you what she told me, is that she started feeling more energetic. It sealed out what she thinks was a signal that was being sent to her from the area to feel down and depressed. And that concerns me because where she is not one of the best places for mental health. And I'm not saying it because like, oh, look, this is Ohio. Weirdos go here because this is their mating ground and they flock here. No, I'm not saying that at all because then I'll have everybody from Ohio pissed off at me. No, it's just in the area she lives in seems to radiate a kind of negativity. And I'm hoping that at one point in time she's going to move to California because at the very least there she can grow her garden again and get back to normal. And so she's learning to use what we call the eye. She's like, well, it's interesting you called it the eye. It's like, well, we called it the eye because it looks like the eye of Agamotto from Doctor Strange. We're derivative like that. Sorry, it's not because there's some deep metaphysical meaning behind it. Sorry. We're just, we're nerds here. We're geeks. We have our fandoms as well. I may be gifted, but most of my life I had my head stuck into one thing or another, whether it was reading or comic books or whatnot. And Dr. Stephen Vincent Strange is one of my favorites. So, did your dad ever get home?
No, he's not home yet. He's still helping my Uncle Pat move because my auntie had a lot of stuff.
Now, the reason everybody's going to probably be curious why I'm asking that is because when Dumbledore's away, all the problems happen at Hogwarts. Ha ha ha, yes. Okay, now, to unpack that joke, her father is ridiculously gifted, and he's not been around. So weird things have been happening to Sonia. Sonia, tell us about it. Now she's on the spot. She gets giggly. And how much would you like to wager she's glowing red because she's blushing?
Well, I've been having blackouts and something following me. And it snapped my necklace off. I don't know how to describe it. That's really it, really. Blackouts and
sleepwalking and things following you, and broke off your necklace because it wants to be able to get to you. And you're also shortcutting it. She lives in Lancaster, UK. where it was like the proving grounds for how the hell you can kill a lot of people by going, look, it's a witch. The Pendle witch trial, which was basically a dry run for the crap that happened in Salem, Massachusetts, with the Salem witch hunts. They literally created the playbook by which they screwed over and killed a lot of men and women in the United States, in England, where she lives. Just to give you some historical background. And
don't forget, I'm also 30 minutes away where they strung them up as well.
I think that goes without saying. Because they aren't going to go, oh, look, it's a witch. Let's let them out into the population so that they can run around and breed like free animals. No, they're going to be horrible people because, let's face it, it was the 16th century. Not one of the heights of human compassion. It was the height of the church telling people, kill them, they're different. Or, look, we want to get rich, kill them, they're different.
And the worst thing is, Demdike's, one of the Pendle witches, was sent to the gallows through her 9-year-old daughter, 9-year-old grandchild. Standing up and going, yes, they're witches.
Oh. One of the most wonderful things. Anyway, that's where she is. And where I think recently there was such heavy rains that bodies were coming up out of the ground, because isn't that wonderful? Humans popping up out of the dirt like mushrooms. And this, of course, is going to cause problems. I know from experience because I was in Wales when that was happening in Wales in 1977, and something decided that it really liked to come after me and make my life a living hell. So it's not like it's an uncommon event. I mean, you got to think about it. When these kind of things occur, what was it? The Enfield poltergeist started happening the day after I left England. Literally the day after I left. These things seem to come out of the dirt and go looking for stuff that they want to go after, because look, there's somebody I can target. They've got lots of energy, which comes back to one of the things that we've been investigating and reading about. And I finally just got the last pieces of information, because there's a gentleman who goes around, apparently he's ridiculously rich, and goes around to other countries to find places that are very, very haunted, from the Orient all the way to England. And 2 years ago, he went to, good grief, what's it called? And it's the part of Enfield where the haunting occurred. Bramford, I think. Well, I'm butchering it. Bradford, yes. Or let me, I could look this up in a second. I'm being lazy. I've got it all written in my notes here, like a complete goof.
Well, it sounds like you're saying Bradford.
Let me see. It starts with a B. Brimsden. There we go. Which is in a part of Enfield. It's a subsection of Enfield. And that's where Janet Hodgson, her little adventure with a very mean little bastard, started. And to this day, that SOB is still in there. And I didn't know that until I found this video from this gentleman. Now, the last information that I had been able to gather on the Enfield haunting was that Janet's mother, Peggy, was not being bothered by it because there was a Dutch psychic. Oh, Christ. Why did I close it? Let me give you his name. That was stupid. Sean, stop doing the dumb things. What's his name? Let's find it. A Dutch psychic. Back and forth through the thing. Yes, Sean, look. You can find it quickly. Okay. For all you Dutch people who are listening to this recording, please forgive me. I do not know how to pronounce Dutch words, so I'm going to do my best. This psychic's name was Dono Gemelig Meling, I think. And he's a clairvoyant and healer who went to the Hodgson family and solved their problem. And it's been quiescent. Now, he solved their problem. Did not make the thing go away. I don't know why. I can give you my assumptions about it. But the next family that moved in immediately started having trouble. And the second oldest child, this lady's son named Shaka, woke up and saw an old dude in the living room and asked, "Mommy, why is there an old man, white guy in our living room?" And she did some investigation and found out the council put them in the council house that was right next door to Satan's Toe Jam and said, "We're leaving." And so every family that came in since then, over the last, was it 8 years, 9 years? I don't know. I can't remember when Janet's mother died. Basically have been coming and going like there's a revolving door in the front of the house. They come in, they stay for a while, and get the hell out of there. And most of this was reported not by the people who live in the house, who are really scared to actually say anything, because apparently saying that they're going to bring in the news makes the poltergeist really pissed off. The neighbors who actually live in the attached house just to the left of the Enfield home have been noting all the weird sounds, the knocking and stuff. They don't hear it in their home. They hear it next door. All the strange sounds are next door. Now, I'm not sure why the ghost would only stay in his house next door, because it is part of the same building. If you ever wanted to look at it, the house is at, we scroll up to the top because Sean was smart this time and didn't close the thing down, is at 284 Green Street in Brimston, Enfield. You'll be able to Google Earth that, or take a look from the street level. It is a council house that's right there on the corner of the street. And it is if you were in the United States, I think you'd call it a duplex of a sort, even though it's several stories high. Pardon, I'm going to have a drink. But for some reason, the ghost confines itself only to the house on the right-hand side. And but the report to this guy's channel was that these people have lived in the house next door for about 10 years, and they've been hearing this sound all that time since Peggy Hodgson died. And the people who live there come and go really, really, really fast. Which, when you have to consider this is a council house. For you, those of you who live in the U.S., you would think of it as Section 8 housing. Basically, the government pays a good portion of it so you can live there, which means it's not the best housing you could afford. It's not great. It's not horrible. But if you're living there, you're generally down on your luck. You don't have a lot of money, and so it's reduced rent housing. So for people to go, we don't have a lot of money, but living on the streets is better than here, you do the math. At least I think that's what council housing is, right, Sonia?
They don't always pay your rent. It all depends how much you actually earn, but most of the time they do pay some of your rent, yeah. Yeah,
see, it's like Section 8. And the Hodgsons, when they first moved in there, Peggy had just split from her husband, and they really didn't have a whole lot of money, and she wasn't working. So I believe she was living there on a full... they were paying the entire amount. This was back in 1977. And just to give you an idea of how poor they were, I know they had to pay their own water bill, and so the girls had to share bath water, which is really gross. Because the eldest daughter, Margaret, just started her, sorry folks, it's going to be a little graphic, periods in August. And so you can't really control where that's going to go when you're sitting in a bathtub of water. So when Janet would have to take, the graphic nature of what I'm thinking about is kind of making my head swim, had to soak in water that had not good things in it. And I don't mean just body dirt. So once again, you have to figure this is the reason why they didn't just go, screw it, we're out of here, and run from this thing. Plus, the poltergeist itself, because of Janet's gifts, which I believe burnt out by the time she hit 14, because of this thing, would follow her to school and make things happen. Chalk, erasers, things would get thrown at her. Water turning on in the school as she'd pass. All the nozzles would just, all the taps would turn on. Toilets would flush while she's sitting there going to the restroom. All the other toilets in there would flush like there was an army of girls just sitting there flushing the toilets. This is just some of the things I'd read. But once this had burned out and they were no longer chasing her, this poltergeist took up residence in there and stayed quiescent until Peggy Hodgson died. And apparently that's when the arrangement ended. So this nice Dutch guy basically, I think, got the ghost to stay quiet while the Hodgsons were still living there. That's it. And once the Peggy Hodgson died, it's like a lumberjack match in a wrestling tournament. Anything goes when the whistle blows, and we're back to square one again. Got anything to say, Sonia? I'm sorry, I'm directing the narrative here.
It's fine. Like I say, you've done a lot more research on it, but yeah. But the council wouldn't have made it easier for her to move anyway. Let's just say they're not exactly the easiest thing to move when you want to move as well.
Well, also the fact that they were asked if that's what they were aiming for originally, and Peggy said, no, we don't want to move. We just want this to stop. In fact, there were people, the council was willing to move them. The council, believe it or not, was actually pushing to move them because of all the negative press. The Daily Mirror, I know the Daily Mirror is not as respectable of a newspaper today as it was back in the 70s, but the Daily Mirror was a big thing back in the UK back then, and it was because of all the press that was going on in there, the council they wanted this to be quiet really fast. They were trying to sweep it under the rug, and they were offering to rehouse them, even move them to a hotel and pay for it while they were finding another place for them to live. But Peggy didn't like the idea of uprooting the kids, and it was not their aim in the first place. They weren't looking for the attention. They didn't want it. And so just from what Sonia said about the council not normally wanting to go out of its way to help, this kind of situation, they were really, really aiming to get out from under the gun. And they didn't want it. They didn't want the attention. They didn't even make any money on it. In fact, I don't believe anybody in the family took any money for anything. They didn't write any books. They didn't. They did a great many things, but they never got any cash for anything. And in the UK, they don't pay to be on these shows way back in the old days. It's a little different now. I know you have a bunch of these talk shows that are similar to the Maury Povich show, Sally Jesse Raphael style of Pearl Harbor style interviewing, where they put you on the spot, pull out people to make you feel uncomfortable, and the entire audience hoots and hollers, and that person walks away with probably about £1,000 in their pocket. Because I know they do that here in the U.S. They basically pay them to sit there and take it. But in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that was unheard of in the United Kingdom. Mainly because the broadcasting is regulated by the government, so they don't have a lot of disposable cash to throw at things like that. Though things have changed with cable and some of the, I think you have a thing there called Skynet or Sky something or other.
Just Sky.
Sky. There you go. And I know that's put all the rules the way they used to be on their ear, and so quite a bit of the negative TV, American-style TV, Pearl Harbor, ambush-style interviews have now dropped face first into the lap of the people in the United Kingdom. My apologies. We invented that craziness, and we definitely should own it. But yeah, this is some of the research I've done is this is just, it's an ongoing issue, and my son says to me, well, Daddy, why don't you go there and like eliminate it permanently? And I said, because if I do, then people who are normal are going to take all this for granted. Well, let me put it to you this way. If you had a fireman who patrolled the neighborhood, and every time a fire just erupts for like, in the first 20 seconds, they put it out, because they'd never ever go home and they just patrol all the time and just put out the fires as they start, nobody would think, well, maybe we should be careful with our homes. Maybe we shouldn't do some of these really stupid things like putting wires directly into an electrical socket, or let me put out my cigarette in the wall, or go to sleep while I'm smoking type of thing. Y'all would just take everything for granted that somebody's going to save you from your own stupidity. I'm not really saying that the whole world is stupid, but if we constantly go out there looking to solve the problem before anybody realizes it's a problem, you're not going to learn to recognize the problem. And he disagrees with me because he's at that age where he's very altruistic, and I definitely understand his point of view. But I told him, I said, until somebody asks for the problem to be solved properly and then goes looking for the people who can do it, nobody's going to even admit to themselves that it is a problem. And the original investigators went in there, Maurice Gross and Lion Playfair, with the intention of documenting it, identifying it, communicating with it, exposing it for what it is so that the world can't go to sleep and pretend it doesn't exist. So if I was to go in and undo the problem, let's say I could do it. I don't know because I haven't really gone there. What would happen to people's ability to recognize the issue itself? It just disappear. You don't want things to just disappear without proper attention being given to it. Like, let's say somebody comes up with a cure for cancer on their own. This is a hypothetical. Let's say they come up with a cure for cancer on their own. They cure their own cancer, and then they spend the rest of their life going la-di-da-di-da, and then never tell anybody what's going on. That problem never comes to light, nor does the solution. And so if the solution can't be seen for the problem that it's solved, then it never gets the attention and goes out to the people where it needs to be, amongst the sick or the suffering. So sorry for waxing philosophical there.
No, you've got a fair point there.
Truthfully speaking, I would rather solve all these issues so that they never pop up. But if I do, then I'm doing a disservice to folks like myself, especially those of us who are new in the business, new in the field, because we need to have, there's some things that people need to go out there and identify so that the new folk can go and solve the problems. You don't get experienced by being told about other people's experiences beyond a certain point. You actually have to use your abilities. And there's a whole new generation of people being born that are going to be taking over after I'm dead, and they need to know about these things, and they need to have their own hurdles to jump. Somebody is going to go and solve this problem permanently. And hopefully it'll be done in full view of cameras where people can see it being done, where people can appreciate that it's being accomplished. And that's what really should occur. Not for the glory, not for the money, but so that it becomes a new subset of issues that people are aware of and can put their hands on and put a finger on the solution for, by simply knowing that this has occurred and having the data out there on YouTube or Vimeo or even Twitch. I mean, doing it live on Twitch. Wouldn't that be fun? Hey, there's somebody playing a video game over here, but there's an exorcism on channel Z. Let's go over there. I think I heard you chuckling there, Sonia.
Nope.
She's trying to hide it. By the way, our solution for her issue was what did we do to fix your problem with the thing following you?
Well, he's still following me, but it's backed off a fair distance now. I can only just and so feel it. Well, he taught me that spell to use.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked pretty well. And to get a new thing to go around my neck so he can't snap it.
And that thing would be an actual steel, a steel locking collar with pendant, so that it can't be just pulled off in her sleep like a chain necklace. A chain necklace is easy to snap, or at the very least, the pendant could be yanked off by breaking off the silver, metal, tin, aluminum, copper, whatever the bumper is that goes through the pendant that's supposed to marry the pendant to the necklace. And once that's gone, whatever passive protection you have also goes right out the window. And yeah, so the thing backed off because it realized it was being outmaneuvered, which is good. It's funny, though, when you started being followed, the stuff that was going after Diane suddenly ramped up, and a few other people that I knew. And Aisha had her issues last week. I don't know if you did you watch the last Segue Saturday?
No, I haven't had a chance yet. Like I say, I've just been really exhausted. I've been
That's
really
too bad
drained.
because it was interesting. Her issue was that a girl with latent abilities. See, this is the reason why we want to bring all this stuff into the light. You want to discuss this. With latent abilities, had come over to her home, hung out with her children, and then because she couldn't get her way every time, but eventually ended up getting what she wanted because Aisha, she's that kind-hearted of a person anyway, said she wished that Aisha would die. Well, that's creepy, wrong, screwed up, and unfortunately with some kids, especially one that's this old, she just hit the time period where all you girls get this big bump in your abilities about the age of 9 to 12 because that's when your monthly visit starts, and all of a sudden everything happens. See, boys, we have a much easier ramp. It keeps going steadily upwards from whenever it starts to, we hit our 20s. But for you girls, all of a sudden it's like we're going along nice and steady, and it's like a nice cart ride. Then all of a sudden somebody hits the turbo boost and we're going, Arr! And now you're in for it. And I wish I was joking about just how bad that could be. For some girls, if they don't have a focus for their abilities, it turns into poltergeist activity like Janet Hodgson. Or in this girl's case, it turns into her ability to create thought forms that stick around and mess with people. Now, in Aisha's case, it was this thing following her, trying to stress her out, and she kept hearing footsteps running up behind her. I just thought it sounded, she said footsteps, like it was her daughter's. So I assumed it was like a pair of feet running behind her. She wasn't very clear. Later on, we joked about it, but it turned. She was talking about 4 feet, and not specifically feet anyway, because when I went over there to look, it turned out it was a goat. And I'm talking about like the same, like with Maria. If anybody's well versed in the some of our older videos, like Maria, who has a ghost cat, and I didn't know it was a ghost cat. I don't think the ghost cat knew it was a ghost cat. I'm like, you don't have a cat? Okay. So I poked my head into. Sonia's gonna be giggling the whole time. So I poked my head into Aisha's house, and the first thing that cut out of my mouth is like, when did Aisha get a goat? And Jemima is freaking out and says, "You get that thing up out of here." I thought, okay, I can talk to Aisha about maybe they should keep the goat in the backyard. But then the goat stood up. and when it stood up, it turned into something. And this is where I'm thinking to myself, I'm losing it. I'm going to be like Zach Bagans. Because the first thing that is going to come out of my mouth is, it's a demon. It turned out it wasn't. It was just some kid's thought form that could look like one, because that's what this girl had created. She wanted to bedevil Aisha. And so I took care of it. And later Aisha's was saying, well, you have a strange idea of fun. And Joel and I are laughing. He's like, yeah, we do. Because after I was done, I said, that was rather thrilling. And it was thrilling because it wasn't as dangerous as I thought it was. Once I got rid of it, I'm like, that got the blood pumping. And it wasn't anywhere near as hectic as I thought it was going to be. So I was relieved as well. And Aisha just thinks, oh, you guys are all crazy. Like, yeah, we're definitely crazy. Mainly because a good percentage of my emotions were, boy, am I glad this wasn't the devil, Mama. See, she's still laughing. She muted herself twice because she was probably giggling out of control. Weren't you, Sonia?
One of them. No, one of them was Paul's coming up the stairs like a herd of elephants.
That reminds me of my brother. Always walking on his heel. Bam, 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 bam.
And I was eating cake as well, so. But yeah, I was giggling a little bit, especially about the cat bit.
I know how to tickle your fancy on that. Was like, you don't have a cat? Well, the cat's got you then. No, seriously, I'm like, when did Aisha get a goat? Right? Jemima's freaking out. It's like, it's making a mess in my house. Why did she get a goat? right? And it was, and she was hearing the things hooves clattering behind her because it was probably trying to butt her in the ass and menace her.
Goats are quite. I could understand why she gets it. It actually only trims the top layer of grass. It doesn't actually do any damage to keep your grass nice and short.
Sheep actually are the ones that eat down to the roots. That's not the issue. The issue was there's no real goat there. This was what the girl had left behind metaphysically in the house, but it was making a mess. And poor Aisha was wondering why the house was extra dirty no matter what she did. She kept cleaning and cleaning, and so she says she told me to apologize to Jemima for having let that thing in the house. And she says, "What does Jemima want?" And Jemima was like, "Don't you ever let that girl back in this house." And Aisha said, "I agree." I'm like, "I agree too." It's like having the spawn of Satan come over for dinner. You don't want to do that. But it's there's safer things to eat with, like the spawn of Cthulhu. So anyway, poor Aisha. That problem was solved last week. This week we haven't had any major issues. I'm glad. Just a lot of doing investigations into older stories, older hauntings, and Brent last night actually read part of my story on his show on Paranormal Portal. Thank you again, Brent. And we hit 100 subscribers, and then we lost one. But according to the person didn't unsubscribe. One of our subscribers lost their channel. So that means automatically the subscription went down. So somebody was doing something they shouldn't have with their channel that's been subscribed, and poof, their channel disappeared. So because I can look at my at the subscriptions coming in, and there's no subscription. It shows you like a spike of every person that comes in, like the numbers going up on a graph chart, but there's none going down. So that means, once again, somebody lost a channel. Shouldn't they? Somebody's either doing copyright strikes, or they decided to mouth off to the wrong person and say the wrong thing. And YouTube being what they are today, they said, "Yep, your channel's gone." So hopefully we'll get that person back. Or if they were that bad of a person, hopefully we don't get that person back. It's all up to you, whoever it was, mystery subscriber. I'm sorry you lost your channel, but if you lost it because you were bad, then shame on you. So, in any case, if anybody has any questions, once again, the whole point of this Segue Saturday is so we give you an hour to come and ask your questions. I don't know if this is the best time. Maybe in the evening would be better, but if we did, then Sonia would have to wake up like 4 o'clock in the morning to be on these shows. And I don't think I want to do that to her with her weird schedule as it is.
Well, I'll be up at that time anyway because I'll be getting ready for work.
At 4 in the morning?
Yes.
Good Christ.
I've not been sleeping well. I've literally been waking up. I've had like 2 hours at night at sleep, and then I'm waking up periodically, like every hour on the hour. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to get ready.
Well, this is why we want Dumbledore to come back to Hogwarts. Whatever aura your dad has, he's intimidating enough to the things that keep on messing with you, so you sleep through the night at the very least.
So I've been feeling lethargic, not wanting to do anything. I've literally just wanted to curl up and just... bleh.
Well, hopefully at some point we get you trained up enough to be able to handle these things on your own so you can sleep at night.
I was that tired last Sunday. I locked myself out of work for an hour.
Was that an accident? Or was
it was an accident.
Or was it, I just don't feel like working. Let's lock this door and walk.
No, it was by accident. Somebody rang the back of the doorbell to drop off some stuff, but it was just some idiots. And we have 2 doors, and they're both fire doors, so if they close, you can't get back in. So I had to call my manager. I had to wait 2 hours. That was fun. And I'd finished cashing up and everything, and it was like... it's just been one of them days, you know. We had the till breakdown on us. Then we had the card machine breakdown on us. So for about 2 hours, we couldn't accept card. It was cash only. And then we ran out of change, so I had to find some way of getting change on a Sunday. No banks are open, no nothing. So that was fun.
Uh, my son was the one who helped me make actually both my sons, but my youngest one only nominally. The elder one helped me to empower the necklace that we gave to Diane. And ever since then, Trevor's been suffering nosebleeds. He's like, Dad, why am I suffering nosebleeds? I'm like, it's just dry air. It's just dry air. Ha ha ha. It wasn't. It's because he's broken through a plateau. I helped him work the energy into the necklace, and he'd never done that much energy work before. It's interesting because when I was his age, when Joel and I were his age, we were doing a lot more. But because he's like yourself, Sonia, he stays at home. He doesn't have to worry about protecting himself. He doesn't have to worry about metaphysical things coming near. The house is so well protected that he could stay here pretty much forever and never have to see anything untoward unless he wanted to. You, on the other hand, when your dad leaves, his protection goes with him, and you live right in the middle of Spook Central. So that's why you're having those problems now. I wish there was some way I could help you. I've done the best I can because the necklace and the collar is going to have to do. But yeah, for those of you who have these kind of issues, Son, you might want to turn on your camera and show them what my solution was, our solution. As you can see.
Showing?
Yep, showing. It's a very functional way of making sure that pan down, down. Stop moving. There you go. Hopefully everybody can see. And okay, there you go. That was the solution we came up with, and it works well enough, more than well enough, thankfully. And it's an idea for those of you out there who may want to have something that looks like that, or at the very least that's completely irremovable in case the stuff hits the fan. Because how many stories have I spoken about where people go, I'm going to wear this rosary or this thing, and the negative entity said, really? Snap, and it goes flying or it's gone. This sort of situation, nothing's going to go snap and it's gone. Your neck will actually have an easier time breaking than that thing will, because that's solid steel. The rating on I think the first thing that would break about that necklace is the pin or the Allen nut on the backside. Either one. That's the weakest point on it, and those are pretty damn strong. Just saying. So that means that any ghost that could get it off would either have to dematerialize it, which it couldn't do because of the nature of the energy that flows through it, or they'd have to dematerialize you and send you someplace else, which would require a hell of a lot more energy. Which one of the dogs is that? Is that Ace?
No, that is Henry. We're dog sitting for Paul's sister.
Ah. So fortunately, this was...
let's just say he's not a very polite dog.
And is the collar comfortable?
Yeah. It sits. I was going to say sternum, but it's not the sternum. You know, like the
clavicles. Clavicle.
Yeah, clavicle. Yeah, it sits on there just perfectly, and like it's sleepable and everything.
Good. For some people, that might not be their cup of tea, but I'm telling you, I know there's a lot of Wiccans and brain's going numb here. Pagans out there. I'm sorry. I just took an allergy pill and it decided to finally kick in, and my sinuses are clearing out and my brain is going, yeah. This is the reason why I don't take 2 of these pills at once, because then I'll be on the ground going, yeah, I think I'm going to take a coma. I did that last week in the midst of having a massive allergy attack after working in the garden, and it was bad. Somebody is growing something next door or nearby where I live, and my sinuses do not like it. It's not like the whiff of whatever it is that's coming through the swamp cooler today. I'm in my room with the door closed, and so my sinuses are getting better anyway. I took the allergy pill only about 10 minutes ago, so now it's starting to kick in. And but a week ago, I took 2 of these because I was desperate to stop sneezing. Desperate. Because it would be like, sneeze, breathe, sneeze, breathe, sneeze. And I just couldn't take it anymore. Oh, here's a fun fact for you. Does anybody out there know why people, when they sneeze, say "bless you"?
It needs something to do with the soul trying to escape or something. That's what the church says, or something like that.
That is correct. People used to believe that when you sneezed, your soul would come out of your body. You literally sneeze your soul out of your body. And so people would say, "bless you," just in case the devil was going to come and scoop up your soul. I can tell you from experience. I know. I can see these things. No, your soul does not come out of your body when you sneeze, thankfully. Or else we'd have tons of people running around, astrally projecting every time they go, "achoo, hey, I think I'm going to take a look around." It does. Promise it doesn't work that way. But this is a fun bit of history, which I thought I'd tell you about. Sorry, now she's giggling again. I got to stop being so damn funny. There's achoo, I think I'm going to take a look around. In England, that's not safe. I'm telling you that one for free.
Especially Lancaster.
Well, certain parts of Lancaster, especially where they have all those body parts laying around. I know the explanation is worse than the actual what I'm saying, but I'm not going to explain it. I'm not. So he was like, "Why don't you take a look around my town?" No, Sean should have known better. I'm Google Earthing through her town. I'm like, this place is a creep fest. I'm telling you, if I ever come to the UK, can we not meet in your town? Honestly, I don't want to go there.
Well, we could always meet up at Willy Bob. That's a nice place. That's really nice energy up there. Good.
Because I'm like Don Knotts in the Reluctant Astronaut. I don't want to go. There's parts of the United Kingdom that are just not fun. Most of the places I've been that I really felt good about were places way outside of London that used to be unincorporated areas that the city built out to. And, of course, Scotland, near my family's home up there.
Scotland's beautiful. Yeah.
I don't know why. It's generally safer. I guess it's because the Scots are a clannish bunch and their ghosts are too, right? They're not going to bother you if you're not a pain in the buttocks. But if you are an enemy of the Scots clans, then they never leave you alone. And I'm telling you this because I did not realize until I read further into the history of Borthwick Castle that there was a lady who'd gone there, and by saying lady, I mean actual lady. She was Dame fill in the blank. I don't want to go any deeper. Okay, like if you knight a man, he's called sir, and if you knight a female, she's called lady. And so in England, I'm sorry, I have to say this because the people in the United States are like, "Well, it's a lady, isn't that any woman?" No, it isn't. That's where the joke comes from. That's no lady, that's my wife. No, that's a really old vaudeville joke. And like Dame Edith Evans and Dame, oh shoot, just had two of them recently done, and my brain just decided to poop out on it. The one who played Queen Elizabeth recently, and what's her name? Who she was in Excalibur.
Oh, I'm trying to think of her name.
Whatever, them. Anyway, so this lady who was a knighted woman of the court from England went to Scotland and went into Borthwick Castle as if she was the queen of the muck and was going to she ruled the roost there. And I hate to be the one to point this out, but the Borthwicks were not sympathetic to the English cause. This was a point where she'd come in under the banner of diplomacy, and though the laird of the castle was polite, the elemental that protects the castle was not. Menaced this woman until she left that night because it was better. She would sleep. She wanted to sleep on the carriage on the road because it was safer than sticking around in this place. This thing chased after her in every room she went into, and she was by herself. She was begging not to be left alone. And of course, the laird was going, no, I'm going to have to leave you alone at some point in time because we're not going together to the restroom. I'm sorry. And every time she was left to her own devices or left to her own devices with her entourage, this thing would come into the room, and she was the only one who could see it. Of course, everybody could smell it. because this thing decided it wanted to smell like a giant heap of dog and cattle muck. So she was being chased by an elemental that said, you know what, let's smell like a manure pile and let's see how long this lady can handle me. And her description of it was quite horrifying. Considering that elementals can take on any appearance they like, I know this one was crafting a design so that it would be able to scare the living daylights out of the woman. And let's face it, she's English, so she's going to be more than a little bit soft. Or what's the term? Poncy? Yeah, that's what I remember. Poncy. So and if you're wondering how that's spelled, it's spelled the same way that Americans pronounce pansy. It's Poncy. So she went running for it. And I love these stories of these. Because, well, it would have killed her. No, it wouldn't have killed her. Because it was not being sicked on her. It just said, I don't like you. You shouldn't be here. I don't like your attitude. Which is what a lot of, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of Celtic ghosts are like. Whether you were talking about ones in Wales, ones in Ireland, or ones in Scotland. If they don't like your vibe because your nose is too high in the air, they're perfectly willing to be able to stick a nasty little smell up it just to see what you do. And I think that's just probably the funniest thing. They take people down more than a few pegs that think that they're on too high of a rung on the ladder.
I must admit, the two places I wasn't a big fan of in Scotland, and that was where the Battle of...
I know what you're talking about. One with
the major battle.
The one with the oh my gosh, and it's in the new series too. It's a Highlander series of God, I know what you're talking about. The ones with the Jacobites.
Yeah, it basically where England was massacred and then where Scotland was massacred.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name. Battle of Burn? No, not Burn. Battle of Culloden. I can't remember the other one.
Right. Well, those are obviously going to have any place you have a massive murder and nobody's gone to cleanse it in any way. It's going to, of course, hold on to that negative energy. It's not like this one psychic actually told me that the concentration camp in Auschwitz was actually cleansed. So it's not a bad place to visit for people who are gifted, unless, of course, they can pick up, like myself, stone recordings, which I always am frightened of, because those come with a sudden rush. There's no warning involved, and then I'm staggering away from a spot that had an overload of that kind of information stored in the stones, like the place in front of the Bloody Tower of London, where all the beheadings occurred. Yeah, that was fun. I could definitely do without ever experiencing that again. But if a place had been cleansed, or at the very least had the spirits laid to rest, your only worry then would be stone recordings at all. But I don't believe that's been done there. And the Celts tend to hold grudges for a long, long time. The land does too. And Sonia's gone silent, probably because somebody in the background's talking loud. In any case, we're coming down to the last 10 minutes here, and still haven't heard anybody coming in. Nobody coming to talk. Nobody wants to ask questions, but we're going to be doing this every Saturday that I can, that I'm not working. Every Saturday possible, and we're going to hopefully have different people available. We're going to start Paranormals and Coffee again, hopefully either Sunday of the week after next or possibly Friday. And I just have to get Joel so we can record the Enfield haunting information. Oh, and for those of you who are interested in it, if you have Hulu, Hulu has the miniseries done in England based on it. And it's a wonderful miniseries, although it is only based on the original story. It is not the original story. They have taken some poetic license and liberties with the story. And for those of you who are Harry Potter fans, Peter Pettigrew plays Maurice Grosse. Yes, that's not his real name. You know who Peter Pettigrew is, especially if you're Harry Potter fans. Don't bust my chops. The actor who played him is a wonderful actor, plays Maurice Grosse. And it is an amazingly well done story, and they've done their best to flesh out some of the events. They have based it around some of the events as well, but they did cover all the major high notes, and then embellished a bit at the end, because I believe Maurice, he continued to do his investigations, and he never reported that he ever got in contact with his departed daughter, Janet. And Maurice and my grandfather actually had something in common, in that they lost somebody to a motorcycle accident because no helmets. My grandfather, William Griffiths, actually I should say William Thomas Griffiths, so the family name was Thomas Griffiths. It's hyphenated. His friend, Lieutenant Lawrence of Arabia fame, he used to actually work on his motorcycles, because my grandfather was in the RAF, and he worked in the motor pool. He repaired the vehicles. When Lieutenant Lawrence was having issues with his motorcycle, he would come to my grandfather in the shop, and they would work on it, or he would have somebody work on it while he talked to Lieutenant Lawrence. And Lieutenant Lawrence, of course, died racing through the English countryside on his motorcycle just after a rainstorm. And I don't care who you are, you got to be a real ballsy person to be able to take off on a motorcycle that doesn't have proper wheels for driving in mud, and just zip around the countryside at all. But he did so, lost control, hit something, and then flew off the motorcycle and bashed his head clean in. Because of that, he actually extracted a demandment from my mother, who years later extracted that same demand from me about always wearing a helmet whenever I would get onto a motorcycle, because she did the same. She had the same. My grandfather never wanted to see anybody die like that again. Maurice Gross, his youngest daughter, Janet, was tootling on the back of a motorcycle with some gentleman, had no helmet on, and they got into an accident and died. Which leads back to the same discussion we were having last week about the reason why we're having. Well, I really don't know if I want to actually do the Annabelle doll story, because you have Ed Warren saying, yes, this guy died because he menaced or made fun of the doll and then took off on a motorcycle without a helmet on with his girlfriend and died. I'm sorry, but you're basically saying this person did something dumb on a motorcycle and took chances and got into an accident. Of course he's going to die. He's not wearing a brain bucket. I've been in accidents before, and let me tell you, and this is in a motorcycle now, okay, those helmets, the full face helmets with a visor, do a lot towards saving not only your head, but your face, your neck, because it actually keeps your neck from hyperextending, and just keeping your brain where it's supposed to be in general. I've from the accidents I've been in, I've hurt my lower back, elbows, both my knees, etc. But my head never took trauma. And I've been in car accidents with other people driving, where the first thing that happens is your head rams right into the windshield if you don't have on a seatbelt. So there's that reality, and that's inside of a car where you're not going to fly anywhere near as far. On a motorcycle, if you're even hit at 35 miles per hour, you tend to spin in the air like 172 rotations per minute while flying up to, 35 to 40 feet. Yeah, it's a big thing. Imagine 55 miles an hour, you get your bike knocked out from under you. Okay, so let's put the blame where it lies. Put a helmet on your stupid head when you're on a motorcycle. I don't care that you want to feel the wind in your face. I think you're going to want to keep your face and your nose where it is. And who really wants to feel the wind in their face while you're driving through the countryside? Because all you're going to have is lots of bugs and dirt flying in your eyes.
Well, my dad's the same thing. He goes, if you get on a motorbike, get a helmet, because we have a family member who was he's a vegetable now because he didn't wear a helmet.
Yeah. And he's sort of, I don't know, you could put air quotes around lucky. He's a vegetable if he's alive, but that's like saying that a rutabaga wants to sit in its bed forever. It doesn't.
No, my dad's told me if I ever get a motorbike and he ever catches me with no helmet, he's breaking my back. And this man means what he says.
And he means what he says, even if most of us can't understand him with a Scottish accent and doesn't put his teeth in.
But I can.
I make fun, but then I still respect Dumbledore because he knows his stuff.
But yeah. But my dad goes, they build a helmet for a reason. Wear it.
They built a helmet for, and with the Converse, I swear I've heard all the excuses from people for not wearing a helmet. It's, it interferes with my fun on the motorcycle. Okay.
What
how's
kind of
that?
fun are you having?
How much fun are you having with bugs hitting you in the cheek, dust in your eyes? I can't hear anything with the helmet on. You can't hear anything with the helmet off. When you hit 20 miles an hour and the wind is whistling in your ears. Just ask anybody who rides one of those 10 or 20 speed bikes now. You get to 20, 25 miles an hour and the wind is just whistling over your ears. And that's pretty much all you can hear. Past that, the whistling just gets louder. So what are you missing? The whistling in your ears? Put in a headset with wind whistling in your ears. Okay, your head's going to be safer. You
can get helmets with built-in microphones and speakers to speak to people.
Exactly, and it's much cooler because it's like having a fighter helmet on. Like you can play Top Gun, in your head while you're in your headset while you're riding out there. What's the other excuses? I've
had all the glare from the thing. They have anti-glare now on them.
Well, yeah, even when they're not, the visors aren't perfect. They still they cut down on a lot of the crap that's in it, and you can actually get the ones that are tinted so that you don't have to wear glasses if you don't want to, but you could put sunglasses on inside the helmet anyway. So it's all artificial. But what it really comes down to is their excuse is, I just don't like anybody telling me what to do. So here's one for you then. You don't like people telling you what to do? Don't wear a helmet then. What are you going to do now? So
it's just stupid.
It's just childishness.
I'd like to keep my brain where it was. I like to keep my brain where it is.
It's just pure childishness. 100% childishness. There's nothing else involved but childishness. If you don't value your life so much that you want to have a thrill by riding something dangerous in a more dangerous and precarious position, then that's akin to asking for the end of your life to come quicker. And you ask anybody who's survived it and on the other side of that situation, and they will tell you it would have been better had they listened. I'm telling you because I have met too many people who have learned what regret is. A friend of mine named Dean, if I hadn't made him wear his helmet, he'd be dead now. He broke his arm, his right arm, in 7 places, being thrown off of it. If he wasn't wearing his helmet that day, his head would have been bashed clean in because he hit a light pole or one of the ones that holds up the signal pole where we have the red and the green and red lights. And
you mean traffic lights?
Yeah, traffic lights. He basically shattered his right arm, because it was the only thing that was covering the right side of his chest. And the helmet, you should have seen it, was shattered down the right-hand side. That would have been his head. That would have been his head, because his head's not anywhere near as hard as that helmet. You know that. And then what I tried to use that as an example of, hey, Dean, you should listen to me about taking care of your diabetes and not doing this, that, and the other thing, right? He says, well, if I die, I die. Okay. So now we're on the other side of, he's been through dialysis. He's got a transplant kidney. The transplant kidney is fading. He can't feel his legs and hands because of peripheral neuropathy. He can't get up and walk. Going to the restroom is something he has to do in his own room in a special chair, and then have somebody cart the load out after he's done. And it's embarrassing to him. He's also blind. Okay, he suffered everything except amputation and death. And I asked him, now, do you regret? Yes. life is like riding an elephant that doesn't like going where you want it to go unless you actually learn how to direct it. That elephant is your id saying, I want to have what I want to have. I want it. I want it. I want it because I want it. You know, damn the consequences, because the consequences are somehow magically not going to mean anything to me. I'm telling you now, those consequences are going to matter.
It's like what people say, oh, it doesn't happen to me, it just happens to everyone else.
That kind of egocentric living is what causes a lot of the problems where people sit down and they pull out a Ouija board and go, I'm going to pull out this Ouija board and I'm going to go see if I can stick something in the eye that I can't see, and it's not going to affect me.
Well, it's like my dad, he said when he was on his motorcycle, when somebody rammed him off the road and he smashed into a wall and into a drop, the only thing what saved him was his helmet.
Right. There's these things where you actually have to take responsibility for your own protection. And one of the things I have to note also is I was watching some of the old Ed and Lorraine Warren videos that they were doing, and Lorraine was asked for advice about. Oh, sorry, this was actually an interview recently done with Lorraine Warren. Say, what advice would you give if somebody is afraid that something's around them and it's going to come after them? And say, well, what you have to do is give it up to God and say, God, protect me in the name of Jesus Christ. It's like, well, for those people who are not Christian, that's not going to mean a whole lot. It says, oh, well, you have to admit that there's a higher power. That, yes. And how often does this work? I'm not trying to sound condescending, but what she's saying, if it was pattern proof to work every time, none of the stories you hear about people saying that very thing and then the manure slaps into the fins would not follow right after. And her rationale was, well, you have to have faith. Well, I'm sorry. I do have to differ with her. She was Catholic, is Catholic. I'm sorry. That was rude. I'm referring to her as if she passed and she hasn't. I'm very sorry. But this is the reason why I tell people there's not one size fits all. If it worked for her, that's great. If it works for her, that's fantastic. But I have to say this. It hasn't always worked for her, because I have read extensively, watched videos extensively, and I don't mean the movies that they made based on their life, because that's whole based on their life crap. It's not always actual. It doesn't always work. Which comes back to, there is no one size fits all. There is no one size fits most. No one size fits many. Sometimes a personalized approach is all you've got. And when the Warrens went to investigate certain things on several occasions, doing what she said there made things a lot worse and got them kicked out of the investigation. Now, am I saying that it won't work at any point in time? No. And in some cases, it actually, for people who are a very strong faith, who have a very high level of gifts, it is proof against a great many things. But for the rest of the world, it's not really a thing. This is one of those cases where, as Joel and I will constantly say, the Native American saying of find your own truth. For instance, Sonia is Wiccan. What use is it going to be for me to say, Sonia, call upon God? You can hear her laughing already, right? Yeah, this is not going to work for her. So it's not a functional response. If I went to a Buddhist,
I actually went to a Catholic school.
Right. So like if I went to a Buddhist or a Taoist or there's a lot of non-Christian religions out there and say, all you need to do is fill in the blank with Lorraine Warren's suggestion. It's not going to be fully functional, is it? And they're going to look at me kind of like I have lobsters crawling out of my ears. And so a response would be based on what they know, where their faith lies, and I don't know, I guess you'd say the heritage of how their abilities work. Now, despite the fact that I am Christian, and Sonia is not, our backgrounds, both of our backgrounds, are 150% pagan Scottish. And so our heritage and our abilities is almost carbon copies of each other. So I've actually had the easiest time teaching Sonia how to do anything, because all I had to do is say, Sonia, this is how it worked for me, and you do this, and it's done. But for someone else, it would be very difficult because they don't have a common background. Now, am I saying I call on God to protect me? No, because God has given me these abilities to use for myself. And so I'm a firm believer in the old Aesop story of the gods help those that help themselves. For those of you who don't know this Aesop fable, let me recite it to you. I like most of these, by the way. But there was a merchant who was traveling to, who cares, in Greece, and his caravan got stuck in the mud, and he got his servants to start pushing to try and get the carts out of the mud, and he whipped them and beat them and exhorted them to work harder, put the slaves to work, begged people by the side of the road, and finally fell on his knees and prayed to Hercules. Yes, Hercules was one of the gods that supposedly lived on Mount Olympus, and said, Hercules, please, I beg of you, help my slaves and servants get the caravan out of the mud. And Hercules responded saying, lazy merchant, put your shoulder to the wheel and press. The gods help those that help themselves. And this is, I firmly believe that my abilities were given to me for a reason, not to just sit there and be passive and sit back and not use them. I haven't ever used them for evil. I have never hurt anybody. I have never made anybody do anything dangerous or want to do anything dangerous. I think the most selfish thing I ever used my abilities to do was to push someone to be their best self, to be the very best person that they knew how to be. And I believe it succeeded to a degree. And that is probably the extent of my selfish use of my abilities. But I believe that we're put here to learn and to take care of each other, which is why people go to priests to ask for, exorcism, why you go to specialists to be able to get rid of certain metaphysical ailments and issues. That's the way it works. And if it wasn't, then why would God give us all these different abilities? I know if you want to go with the 16th century excuse of, no, it's not from God, it's the devil, mama. So the Zach Bagans response, which I don't believe in. I don't believe the devil gives anything. The devil's too selfish to give away a thing. And I wouldn't contract with the devil for anything. Not that I think he would give anything. He's a swindler, right? Think about it. If you were to go to the biggest swindler on Wall Street and say, hey, I'll give you all of this if you give me all this money, wouldn't that person figure out some way to be able to part you from your stuff without giving you the money? Hell yeah. You think, and supposedly the devil is the father of all lawyers, right? I mean, that's a horrible thing to say, but it's the father of all lawyers. At the very least, that's what they used to say in the 17th and 18th centuries here in the United States. If you don't believe me, read The Devil and oh God, The Devil and it's a very famous story. Shoot, let me look this up. Devil and Daniel Webster. The Devil and Daniel Webster. He was a very famous lawyer back in the 1800s here in the United States, 1700s, 1800s. And if he was that kind of a person where he was going to try and swindle you, of course he would. So your best bet is either learn your own gifts or go to a higher power that would be willing to grant them to you for the betterment of the people around you. And it would also be selfish to keep them to yourself. to never ever use them for other people's benefit, to never ever reach out and help folks. I don't care what your alignment is, a la Dungeons and Dragons. You know, you're not going to you're not going to ever convince me that letting other people suffer is a good thing. In any case, we're 10 minutes over, and so I apologize, but then we were a couple of minutes short last week because we got on late. In any case, everybody stay blessed, and hopefully see you next week or possibly sooner if we can get Obake Hunter to come and do the Paranormals and Coffee on Friday. And we'll be able to interview him. It all depends on his health issues because the poor man is dealing with back problems. I suggested he see a chiropractor. For those of you who know how good a chiropractor is, leave your comments in the low bar, for this, and so that he can read them and see, yes, chiropractors are basically miracle workers on earth. I love how effective they are in taking away pain because I've had 3 herniated discs in my spine, 1 ruptured. I have carpal and cubal tunnel in both arms, permanently straightened neck, dislocated left hip, dislocated right shoulder, dislocated right knee. Oh my God, that one was painful. Oh wow, that one actually was way more painful when it happened than even the shoulder and the hip. Those were worse when they went back in. And a plethora of other issues from car accidents, etc. So yeah, just everybody give your well wishes to Obake Hunter, and if you're interested in looking him up, he actually has a channel here on YouTube, which is the Hauntings in Hawaii, I believe. I'll leave a link to it. And he goes and investigates places all around Hawaii, or I should say Hawaii. And he is a very, very strong Catholic faith person. And he has a Facebook page, as do we. And you can go and look him up and say hi. So let him know that Ian's Magic Oak sent you. And look at some of the amazing pictures he's managed to take of ghosts. His gifts actually allow him to be able to capture ghosts on film, not their electromagnetic images like I do or my wife does when we take pictures, but the actual physical visual thing. He has a very rare gift, and it's a wonderful thing to explore. And on the island, he has so many places and so many choices of places he can go. So. And of course, it's beautiful. I mean, we're talking about Hawaii, paradise in the South Pacific, you know. And in any case, all of you have a wonderful week. God bless you and keep you, and stay blessed until next we meet.